Cocoa puts food on the table for millions of families across Ghana. The West African nation supplies more than half of the world's chocolate industry with the beans that drive a multi-billion-dollar trade. Owusu Asamoah has been growing cocoa on this 7-acre farm in Osien in southeastern Ghana for more than 30 years. He says producing the cash crop is getting harder with every passing year.
The rainfall pattern has changed over the years due to climate change. It is really affecting our cocoa production.
Ghana's cocoa production has dropped by nearly 50% in the past 3 years, according to government data. This season, farmers say weather changes, pests and diseases, coupled with rising cost of farm inputs, have weighed heavily on production. Cocoa researchers say another challenge is the way cocoa is grown. Behind me is one of many cocoa farms where shade trees are almost non-existent. Studies show that while farming this way may deliver quick returns, it leaves cocoa landscapes exposed, and that makes them more vulnerable to climate change and deforestation risks. Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire are the world's top producers of cocoa. A new European Union-funded study has urged the two West African nations to quickly adapt to stricter sustainability rules. It includes protecting forests, improving labor standards, and using climate-friendly methods. Without the reforms, Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire could lose their competitive edge in the global cocoa market.
We are already struggling as cocoa farmers. If Europe bans us from selling our cocoa to them, things will be worse for us.
Ghana's cocoa regulator, Cocoa Board, says it is adopting a cocoa traceability system by registering and mapping cocoa farms across the country. The regulator believes the system will help protect forests as well as trace every bag exported, ensuring that the country's cocoa meets global sustainability standards. But some cocoa analysts say more needs to be done.
There should be incentives coming from the final end users of chocolate to compensate the farmer for growing the cocoa in a very sustainable way. But in effect, you don't see that. The farmers bear this cost, and at times when they are not able to, they give up.
For many cocoa farmers like Asamoah, they believe whether new rules become a pathway to improving their livelihoods or another financial burden, it will all depend largely on how much practical support reaches them on the ground. Nabil Ahmed, Rufai, CGTN, Osien, Southeastern Ghana.